Hey everyone, so my name is Akal, and what I'm going to cover in this particular video is I'm going to walk you through a progression. It's a transmutation progression, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working with the kidney line and the associated organs and areas of the body that are connected to the kidneys. We're going to be clearing those lines and transmuting the sexual energy all in one video. So now the idea is we're going to be using the sexual energy in a very, very subtle way in order to shift the energies around inside the body. So, and hopefully this will kind of make a little bit of sense as we go on how this is all affected. So before I continue babbling, I would like you to go ahead and take a look down below the video. We have two links. One is for the formula, which is for those individuals who are interested in cultivating a sacred sexual practice. It's a free PDF. You can go ahead and click on that and enjoy. Also down below the video is a link for my Sacred Pressure Tantric Sexual Energy Coaching Program. It can be done in person if you happen to be here in Chicago, or it can also be done with the video-based version. Once again, link down below. So, continuing on. Now, the areas of the body that, and again, this is a Daoist perspective when I'm saying this, okay? So one of the things about the kidneys in the body, I'm going to refer to as the kidney line. I'm not going to go into using meridian or anything like that. I'm just going to simply call it kidney lines. Okay, so the kidney line in the body is connected to a few different points, right? So we have the pinkies, which are associated with the kidneys. We have the ears that are associated with the kidneys, the facial hair, as well as the kidneys themselves, the bladder. Okay, so well, the kidneys themselves would be the yin. The yin in the bladder would be the yang. So, in other words, we have the organs that are kind of receiving from outside are the kidneys, right? So the bladder, though, is an internal. So the internal organ, which is moving substances around inside the body without receiving anything from outside the body, are the yang organ. It gets a little bit cryptic here, but I don't want to belabor this point too much. But just keep in mind, the yin organs are the kidneys, the yang organs are the bladder. So, and then we have a collection point. The collection point is the area where the energy gets collected. So what I mean by that is oftentimes at least I'll speak for myself, I have an irritation along my kidney lines. I probably don't handle stress particularly well, which is why I do yoga every day. So the idea, though, is that at the collection point is that we take any overflow or excess amount of energy and we concentrate it at that place. Now, how this is done is actually quite simple. It's not a very complex thing. What we're going to be doing inside of our bodies is playing connect the dots. And ultimately, towards the end, we'll then be concentrating at the perineum itself, right? So in other words, you're going to meditate at the perineum. And when you meditate at the perineum, what you're doing is you're drawing energy to that place. But we're going to have our awareness divided between the ears, the kidneys, the pinkies, as well as the bladder. And so while we're concentrating at the perineum, so the idea is that energy flows to where the attention goes. So all these energies, any of the excesses, will simply be held or concentrated at the perineum. So in what you may end up feeling down in that part of your body is you may start to feel heat or pulse. It might get warm. There's a lot of different manifestations that could happen. So anyway, observe and enjoy. So the first part of this practice is a Kundalini Yoga practice. Like I said, this particular whole progression, this whole transmutation progression is all about what kind of my influences, which are Kundalini Yoga as well as the Taoism, and so we're going to be mashing those together. So we're going to be doing some breath of fire, and just a quick refresher for those of you who understand breath of fire already, as well as for those of you who do not. Breath of fire is done from 2 fingers below the navel. The reason this is important, right? The reason this is important is because our body's true center of gravity is actually 2 fingers below the navel, inside the belly, directly above the perineum. This also happens to be the area where the lower dantian is called. This is also the area where it's a collection point for the spleen pancreas as well, where the energies get collected and held there. So, and again, this is very much associated with the earth element. So we're going to be doing some breath of fire. Once again, when breath of fire is you pull in your belt line, air will go out, we'll relax the belt line, air comes in. The other thing we're going to be doing here is we're going to be doing some testicle breathing. And if you're a woman watching this, then it's ovary breathing, very same idea. But the idea is we're going to be contracting and pulling the sexual energy as we perceive it. And again, it may be very, very, very subtle, up inside the belly. And we're going to be grounding that charge inside the belly. Keeping in mind that the lower dantian is the earth element. Again, this is the sort of Chinese or the Daoist interpretation of the elements. The earth element concentration point is the lower dantian. So we're going to be bringing that energy up, concentrating it into that space, and then shifting it around inside the body. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of go over those real quick details. I think that's all I want to do. I don't want to go overload you with information. So let's go ahead and we'll get into the practice. So first thing we want to do is we need to ground our spinal cord. So, and also the other thing I want to mention about this is that this progression I'm going to walk you through in order to align the spinal cord, this can be done, and this is a somatic process, right? So in other words, we're going to be able to ground out your emotional states, right? So if you're feeling some nasty emotions or any tension or discomfort or anything of that nature, you simply release your weight down. You take a sniff of air in, continue to release down. Once you have that sniff of air in, you want to maintain tension on the diaphragm. You want to touch the tongue to roof of mouth, release your eyes upward, align the crown with the heavens above. Okay, so this is a basic process. Now, the idea here is that you're not avoiding, in other words, you're not trying to bury or avoid the emotion you're feeling. You're actually going further into it. And you're learning how to relax it and then to ground that charge, okay? So just keep in mind, like throughout this process that I'm guiding you through, if you do feel something of that nature, simply release your weight down and give it onto gravity, right? So give it onto her. Gravity, in this particular case, is the Earth's expression in some ways, right? So in other words, we have this 9.8 meters per second squared that's pressing down on us 100% of our lives. So we're going to utilize that in order to ground the body's electrical systems, of which emotion is energy in motion, and it is part of that electrical system. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll get our alignment. So let's go ahead and release our weight down. Let's take a sniff of air in. Continue to release down, aligning the spine from the rib cage downward. Let's go ahead and maintain that tension on the diaphragm. Touch the tongue to roof of mouth, release the eyes upward, and then point your crown towards the heavens above. Go ahead and exhale. All right, so you should feel like you have a nice tall spine. Your body weight is down. We're now starting the grounding practice, or part of the grounding process. So next thing we're going to do is I'm going to have you go ahead and touch thumb to the pinky. The pinky is what's associated with the kidney line. So go ahead and feel the pinkies. So feeling the pinky and the thumb. You may feel like a tingling sensation. You might feel warmth. A number of different sensations you might experience. You might feel racing up and down the arms, kind of like a movement of some sort. Perhaps heat. Good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go into the breath of fire. So let's go ahead and take a deep breath in. Exhale all the air out. Half breath in. And we're going to begin breath of fire. So pulling in the belt line. So when the belt line goes in, air goes out. So we're going to do this for about a minute or so, so go ahead and keep it up. Do another 20 seconds or so. Take a deep breath in. I'm going to have you retain the breath in. I'm going to have you smile inwardly at your right eye. So while you're smiling inwardly at your right eye, I would like you to relax any tension you feel around that eye, anywhere around the socket, back behind the eye, etc. When you need to exhale, go ahead and exhale, but continue smiling at that right eye. Again, the inner smile, it helps to be literal while you're smiling. An inner smile is like a laser pointer. It helps direct energy. Let's go ahead and inhale, retain the breath, and smile at your left eye now. Same thing, relax any tension you feel around the eye. Inhale, retain the breath, smiling at both eyes. Good. Go ahead, and we're going to release now the eyes. Now I'm going to have you take a deep breath in. And smile all the way down towards your testicles. Or if you're female, the ovaries. So smiling into the testicles or the ovaries. Perhaps one, the right or the left, feels more vague than the other one. Again, you want to smile into it in order to enhance the sensation and the perception of the genitalia. So hopefully you feel pretty connected to that area. You may even start to feel like kind of a sexual charge, okay? So now we're going to ground that charge into the lower dantian. How we're going to do this is as you inhale, you contract the genitals, specifically the ovaries or the testicles, and you're inhaling, pulling your awareness as you're inhaling, contracting, up inside the belly. Again, about 2 finger widths below the navel, directly above the perineum. And then you'll exhale inside the belly, and then return your awareness back to the testicles or the ovaries. So let's go ahead and we'll do this process. Inhale, contract. Bring the awareness up inside the belly. Pause briefly. Feel the space inside the belly. Once again, below the navel. Go ahead and exhale. Once again, feeling that space inside the belly. And then returning to the genitalia. And we'll repeat this again. Contract, inhale. Awareness at the lower dantian. Pulse, you may feel pulse, heat, spinning sensations. Exhaling, returning back down to the testicles or ovaries. And we're going to continue this for the next minute or so. Again, it helps to maintain that inner smile throughout this so you can, once again, enhance your perception of the areas of the body we're working with. So let's do one final contraction. Once again, the awareness is inside the belly. This time we're going to exhale, leave the awareness inside the belly. Once again, the awareness now is 2 fingers below the navel, inside the belly, directly above the perineum. All right, so we're going to do some breath of fire once again. So let's take a deep breath in. Exhale the air out. Mudra is still in the pinky thumb. Let's take a half breath in, and we'll do some more breath of fire. At this point, while we're doing the breath of fire, you may feel like a pulse or a push or some sort of pressure in your pinkies while we're doing this. Good. I'm going to have you inhale, retain the breath, and draw your awareness down now to the space between the anus and the genitals, which is the perineum. Okay? So the space between the anus and the genitals, inhaling, maintain the breath in, feel the perineum, smile at the perineum. Go ahead and exhale at the perineum. All right, so we're going to start to play connect the dots here. So we have the bladder. The bladder is just, approximately kind of above the pubis area. So let's go ahead and we're going to place our left hand at our kidneys, which is at the base of the rib cage. I have my palm facing back. Now the right hand, we're going to place it at the bladder area approximately. So right hand bladder, left hand kidneys, palm facing behind. Perineum, we're going to connect the perineum to the bladder, to the kidneys, 2 in, 1 out, meaning 1 sniff and then another sniff, and exhale, returning back to the perineum. So let's go ahead and take us moving from the perineum to the bladder, 1 sniff in, feel the bladder area, let's take another sniff in, up to the kidneys. Once again, the kidneys are on the right and the left side at the base of the ribs. Now we're going to go ahead and exhale from the kidneys back to the bladder and returning to the perineum. Good, let's do this again. Once again, inhale, sniff, bladder. Inhale another sniff, kidneys. Exhale, return to the perineum. And let's do this for about another minute. 2 in, 1 out. It often helps to pause briefly at each one of these organs so you can feel it, as well as pausing at the perineum so you can once again feel it. You're basically just moving perineum to your right hand, to the left hand, then returning back to the right hand and then back to the perineum. So just carving out a pathway. Think about it like shoveling snow. After there's a heavy snow, you're clearing off the sidewalk. Good. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to return back to the perineum now. And we can go ahead and remove our hands. Come back into our mudra, pinky and thumb touching. So what I'm going to have you do now is I'm going to have you contract Mula Bandha or root lock. So go ahead and contract root lock, which is contract the anus, the perineum, the genitals, pulling the belt line. We're going to maintain this root lock. Now I'm going to have you take a deep breath in, move the awareness upward until your awareness reaches your ears. Smiling into the ears, the space in between the ears. Go ahead and exhale at the ears. Keep this root lock held. Now what we're going to be doing is we're tracing the pathway from the ears to the kidneys. Once again, we're going to inhale through the ears, down the back of the neck, down the back till we reach the base of the rib cage on the left and the right. And then as we exhale, we're going to go back up and back out. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll do a breath. Keep that root lock held. Deep breath, inhaling through the ears, down the neck, down the back to the kidneys. And we'll exhale and retrace that pathway. Back from the kidneys, back up the back the neck, and out the ears. So nice long deep breaths. Once again, keep that root lock gently held. Inhaling through the ears, exhaling back out the ears. You may feel like kind of like a breeze as it's going in and out. You may feel heat, tingling sensations. All right, so now what I'm going to have you do is just take one final breath, go down to the kidneys, and then one final exhale, going back out the ears. Now let's release that root lock. Now when we inhale next, we're going to inhale through the ears, down to the kidneys, down to the bladder, and back down to the perineum. So let's go ahead and take a deep breath in through the ears, down to the kidneys, down to the bladder, back down to the perineum, feeling your pinkies. Deep breath in. Ears, kidneys, bladder, perineum. Retain that breath in, focusing at the perineum. Go ahead and exhale. Once again, stay at the perineum. All right, so now what I'm going to have you do, just for another minute or so, you can do this for actually a much longer period of time if you wish, but I'm going to have you meditate at the perineum. We're just going to do it, like I said, for about a minute or so, but also while we're meditating at the perineum, be aware of your kidneys, be aware of your ears, be aware of your pinkies, be aware of the bladder. Again, rooting down if you get spaced out or different emotions come up. Good. Let's go ahead and take a deep breath in. Exhale. Another deep breath. Inhale. Exhale. One final breath. Inhale. And final root lock. Contract the anus, perineum, genitals, pulling the belt line. Drawing the awareness inside the belly. Relax the root lock. Inhale. Exhale. And my suggestion now is just to go into general meditation for 5 minutes, meaning objectivity. So witnessing all that rises, No particular points or focus, areas of focus or concentration, just allowing all to rise. So with all that said, thank you so much for watching the video. Please like and subscribe.